Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sports Vault Podcast. Jersey, Joe Archino back here. And the news of the day, Chip Kelly introduced as the new head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. And the best news of all, Chip Kelly will not have personnel control through this move. Now, I've always held, and I still believe, that Chip Kelly is a very, very special football mind. I think he's a very good football coach. You look at what he's did his first 2 years with the Eagles. I mean, my goodness, his first game with the Eagles against the Washington Redskins on Monday Night Football, that was really a memorable game because I think we were all kind of wanted to see that offense, how it looked in the NFL, and there's no question that he could get his speed to work the NFL way. There were some problems, some kinks that needed to be worked out. But overall, his first 2 seasons, I think, legitimately are pretty close to successes. Didn't finish in first in the NFC East the second season, but 10-6 your first 2 years in the NFL with a guy like Nick Foles, who, let's be honest, we saw who Nick Foles was this year. Chip Kelly dramatically elevated Nick Foles and made him look much, much better than he is. He couldn't even hold down the starting job for the St. Louis Rams, and Chip Kelly was able to get a bunch of wins out of that guy and make him look much better. Remember the game Nick Foles threw 7 touchdowns in a game? Yeah, there's only a couple guys who've been able to do that. The fact that Foles threw 7 touchdowns with Chip Kelly in his system and now he can't even see the football field, I think that speaks volumes to the coaching ability and just the talented system that Chip Kelly runs. But I mean, trying to be a head coach in the NFL and be balancing player personnel on top of that is just, it's impossible in every single way. As a head coach as it is, you already have so many responsibilities. You have no time for anything as it is as a head coach because you have so much preparation to do. You have to have your hand in every single aspect of his football team, and that's just not also accounting. Chip Kelly does a lot of extra stuff with his nutrition for players. He does all this extra kind of stuff with whether it's the shakes and the special diets for certain players and certain positions. He has all this extra stuff, and to throw player personnel on top of that, again, it's just too much for anybody to handle. I think now that you relinquish those powers of player personnel, Trent Baalke's shown a very good ability. I mean, never forget such a dynamic roster that 49ers team had with Harbaugh when Harbaugh and that team was at its peak. I mean, it just seemed like they had a never-ending supply of running backs. They were able to get guys like LaMichael James. They were able to steal Carlos Hyde in the draft. It just seemed like the draft picks were working. He was doing an incredible job with that. And they have a lot of picks in this upcoming draft. But it's the best thing because now Chip Kelly can just go back to doing what he does best and coaching. The player personnel is not something he has to worry about. That's not something that is going to be a concern with him. Just go out there, institute your system, and make it work. And I think it will work. And it says a lot about the new life we would think would have to be infused into Colin Kaepernick because we all thought he was done in San Francisco. They set up his contract where they could really get out of it without being in too much trouble. I think after each year there was a little bit of an escape clause for them, so they would just have to pay him for that year and then they would be off the hook. But you would think, based on what we know about Chip Kelly, is that he likes athletic quarterbacks. He likes quarterbacks who can move around, make plays, extend plays, and that's one thing that Colin Kaepernick does very, very well, and that's one of the reasons why I think everyone kind of scratched their heads when he traded for Sam Bradford, because that's not what Sam Bradford does very well. But I think Kaepernick, this could save his career, because I'm not a Kaepernick fan. I really have never been. I thought when he was at his peak, he had a stout running game behind him. Frank Gore was at his peak. He had a fantastic offensive line, and it just made his job so much easier. When the running game was at his best, Colin Kaepernick was at his best. When you take the threat of the running game away and you make him force you by throwing the football, reading defenses, doing the things quarterbacks have to do consistently to beat you down the field, he just cannot do those things. But I think now that Kelly is back, that offense is going to be sleeker, it's going to be faster, it's going to move more efficiently. I think this could definitely be big for Colin Kaepernick and saving him, because you would think think that part of the big reason signing on to this job is that they're either going to see what Kelly wanted to do, how he thinks he could improve or fix Colin Kaepernick. Clearly, I think he has some ideas, and there was even rumors that if he stuck around in Philly and the 49ers cut Colin Kaepernick, that he would try to get him there. So you never know. I think that it's definitely a good fit. I think the people who are still trying to knock Chip Kelly are wrong. I just think, look, maybe the relationships are things that you could definitely criticize him for. But I think a lot of that also is a lot of those players, I don't fault him for the Deshaun Jackson thing. I think Deshaun Jackson is a punk. I really always thought that he was a troublemaker. He had those gang ties related things that were associated with him. I never really thought that was the kind of guy that I would blame him for. Some of the stuff is kind of weird. The LaShawn McCoy thing still makes you kind of scratch your head a little bit. But this is mostly a pretty young team. You got to remember with those Eagles, a lot of those guys he had trouble with were veterans who kind of knew a certain way of doing things. I think sometimes when the new Hawkeye comes in and tries to impose his way, some of the veterans don't always take that the right way, and that might have been a big part of it. But this is a young team, still with a lot of young pieces, and with a lot of draft picks coming up. I think that certainly is going to help them as well, but I like the move. I really do. I thought when Wisenhunt was fired from Tennessee, you thought clearly that was going to be a big spot where Chip Kelly could land, but it is the 49ers. And look, if it came down to Mike Shanahan and it came down to Chip Kelly, I'm going Chip Kelly 9 out of 10 times. I just think Shanahan's lost touch with the NFL today a little bit. I think the NFL is all about being innovative, being able to do new things, and I just think that's all what Chip Kelly is about, always trying to innovate, always trying to be ahead of the curve. I think it's the right move for the 49ers, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do with this team, with this offense, and with all the new draft picks that they have. But that is going to do it for this segment. Jersey Joe Archino here with the Sports Ball Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino, on Instagram Jersey_Joe_Archino, and we'll be back next time.